Hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back to This Week in Security. I'm your host Luca, and this week we're going to be talking about data breaches and scams and how these two separate different news stories that we're going to be talking about, one from Cyber Management Alliance and one from Dark Reading, are actually very related, and how you can protect yourself from scams and data breaches. Cyber Management Alliance, a cybersecurity consultancy and training firm, reported for the past 2 months the amount of data breaches that happened in January and in February respectively, with in total being over 32. And the attacked parties ranged from everything from the American football team, the Green Bay Packers, to the medical billing company Medusind, as well as the UN's International Civil Aviation Organization. So we're talking about a huge amount of variety of data that has been breached. For those of you who don't know, a data breach is when sensitive information is supposed to unauthorized people. That's a very boiled down definition of it. But in reality, it's more than just the data that is exposed, but also the profile that is then built on the dark web that people can use to impersonate you, as well as, steal your information by, logging into passwords and emails and all of that stuff. Say, for example, in the case of the American football team, the Green Bay Packers, thousands of credit cards were stolen in the Green Bay Packers store breach, which means that online now there are hackers, there are malicious actors that have the number for your credit card, the security pin in the back, like all of those things, and they can use that to steal your money. Similarly, in other cases where emails and passwords for Power School, for example, was also hacked, now hackers and malicious actors online have access to the email and password for your Power School account, which means that if you use the same email and password for your regular email, or for, your Instagram account or your X account or your LinkedIn account, then all of those things are compromised, because it's very easy to, try and check and log into a different account with the same credentials. And since the past 2 months have had 30 different data breaches with, potentially hundreds of thousands of different people affected, what eventually happens is that if you are a repeated breached person, right, multiple different points of contact and multiple points of information of who you are is now all matched online as to who you are. If you're a fan of the Green Bay Packers and you're also, a Power School user, right? It's usually for teachers and students from K through 12. So let's say you're a math elementary teacher, right? Now they know that your name might be in your email, so they know your name, they know your email, they know your password, they know your credit card, and they know you work at a school. And we're not talking about a small amount of people infected. In the Power School hack, the hacker claimed in an extortion demand that they stole the personal data of 62.4 million students and 9.4 million teachers. So we're talking a lot of people. And so how do you protect yourself against all of this? Because 32 or over 32 in 2 months is a lot of breaches to take care of and, keep track of. Well, first of all, you shouldn't use the same password for your important things as you do for, signing up for a random newsletter. Similarly, you should probably have a different email for your important things as you do for just social media or anything of that matter. Also, usually when a company gets breached, they have to, by law, alert, all of the users that were breached that they were breached. So in order to, whenever you get those emails, whenever you get those calls saying, hey, you've been breached, highly recommend you switch your passwords, you switch an email if you can. But yeah, you should switch your login credentials in order to make sure that you're not breached and not at risk of getting your information stolen. Similarly, enabling two-factor authentication through either text message, which is not as secure as using an app, you should definitely do that. Well, then you might be asking, how does this all relate to scams and when people try to get money out of me, like in a social or like sociological way, right? Well, in Thailand, Cyber Sweatshops have been running with basically human trafficking victims, with thousands of them, basically using all of this data available online to basically sociologically condition you into giving them money or giving you more data and all of that type of stuff. We all know the stereotypical and the story of the grandma that gets the call saying that their grandson was taken for ransom and they have to send money somewhere like all of those things. And this is the Thailand cyber sweatshops do that, and they know how to do that because of all of the information from the data breaches. The good thing is that Thailand government and the Thailand police have targeted the cyber sweatshops, found them, and freed thousands of captives. Right now, there is an estimate that there's up to 100,000 victims of human trafficking currently held in compounds in Myanmar. So there is, no shortage of these scams happening around the world. So how do you protect yourself against scams then? Well, for the example of the grandma that gets a call saying that their grandson is being held for ransom, you should probably text or call your grandson to make sure that he's okay or not. Secondly, for examples such as emails that seem like, oh, you got a parking ticket, or text messages saying, oh, you got a parking ticket, or a toll that like you skipped or wasn't charged for, or things of that nature, make sure to check on the official websites for whatever agency contacted you. Do not click on any links given to you via text messages or emails, because that is an easy way for you to get your data stolen. A lot of these scams are extremely complex and have basically duplicated websites completely for it to look identical to the real one. And so you have to keep all of this in mind whenever you get something that either seems fishy or seems completely normal and is asking for money for you. And the best thing you can do to prevent future scams is, let's say, for example, you got an email saying that the IRS is going to fine you for tax evasion or something like that, right? You check on the IRS website or TurboTax or whatever, and you make sure that your taxes are all fine and all paid for, all good. Then you should report that email for spam or for scam as well, so that Google or whatever, Outlook or whatever type of service that you're using can properly get rid of these scams and mark them as scams in order for future scams to have a harder time of getting through people. Unfortunately, unless you're in Thailand or you know someone that has been taken by a cyber sweatshop or stuff like that, you can't directly help these situations. What you can do is indirectly help by making scamming harder in order to dissuade as much scamming as possible from these sweatshops. And that's really all the time I have for today for the news. There hasn't been that many news relating to security and cybersecurity that have made a big splash recently, but there are going to be some updates soon regarding Salt Typhoon and Silk Typhoon that we'll be probably covering next week. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all. Subscribe.